Okay, so I'm gonna try and do another book review. It's probably gonna be kind of shitty because it's been a while since I read the book. I should have done this immediately after finishing it, but yeah, I always think I should do that, and then I never do it, so sorry. But the book really made me want to make a video. Yeah. So I put it off, but now I'm finally doing it. And the book is this, Religion for Atheists by Alain de Botton. I read the book because I have been meaning to read him for quite a while. I have a friend who's really into him, thinks he's a brilliant writer. And she had given this book to her husband, who absolutely loved it and thought I should read it, so I borrowed it from him and I read it. And this was now quite a while ago, unfortunately. But it was definitely interesting. I was not as taken with it as my friend was. And I felt there was something really huge missing from it that I want to just briefly address in this video. The book is about religion for atheists. And as an atheist, an anti-theist myself, of course, I do find the subject matter interesting. Basically, it's about how the supernatural parts of religion are all bunk, according to de Botton, but they have a lot of good ideas about how human beings should live their lives. And I'm kind of with him up to a point. I definitely think that there is something to this idea that we need religion in some way. I live in Norway. I am Norwegian. It's one of the most secular societies on earth. Also one of the richest, goes without saying. Those two things are very closely connected, unfortunately. But when something happens, like when there is some huge tragedy, a terrorist attack, or natural disaster, then it's kind of the church that people, I don't want to say go to, but it's kind of the church that manages to pull people in. And I really think that that is because there's nowhere else to go. There is no secular alternative that can sort of gather people in the same way. And at times like that, people need a system and a place, like what the Church of Norway actually still does provide. So I do see a lot of his point. Human beings, most of them, not myself, I'm one of those people who have no spiritual side, but most people need something. They need to feel like there is or could be something more out there. And religion has exploited that for many, 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 many years. Basically since humans started to feel this need, I suspect. But of course there's a lot of bad stuff that comes with religion. Primarily, it makes you reject reality in favor of invented facts that don't match what we know about the natural world around us. It pushes dogmatic thinking, which means that it becomes much more difficult to get new insights about reality accepted in religious societies and among religious people. So, de Botton is basically, his thesis is basically that religion does a lot of good things, but we shouldn't have all the other crap that comes with it. So this is basically a lot of suggestions about how we can make use of the good things about religion and not have, well, the unfortunate sides of it dragged along. And he really does have a lot of good points here. I don't remember them now, most of them, because, like I said, it's been a while since I read the book, but he does have quite a lot of insight. He knows a lot about the history of religion. He knows a lot about psychology. So this is well written, pretty well translated, as I recall, and he does have a lot of insights into human psychology and the way the human mind works. And that last part, the way the human mind works, I'm pretty sure we will never get away from a need for something like religion. But the one thing, because he talks about, and he also talks about the history of this concept, and there have been people who have tried to create secular religions in the past, because that's what this boils down to, obviously, is secular religion. And of course it hasn't gone too well for those people, so he tries to, he tells their stories, and he sort of points out why they went wrong, why they didn't work. And then of course saying how can we do it? If we do it now, how could it be better, and how could we make that work? But what is never mentioned here, and that's maybe the thing that really inspired me to make the video, because there's one thing that is never mentioned here at all, and that is the fact that this whole secular religion thing has been tried before in a situation where it was wildly successful, and I do mean wildly successful, and it all went to hell in a handbasket because, again, of the way the human mind works. And he never mentions that. He mentions these like tiny little cults of secular religionists, or religious secularists. No, I prefer secular religionists. Was that what I said? Yeah. But what he doesn't mention, and that is a glaring omission, what he doesn't mention is Nazism. Because you know what? Nazism is actually a great religion for secularists. It's a religion for atheists. It's a religion without a god. A religion where you do worship something resembling a deity, but it is a person, it's a man. It is not enough to call it Nazism. We can call it fascism, whatever. But it's been tried. The Germans have tried it. Basically, what he's saying to do in this book. They tried it, and it didn't really work out that well for them. According to what I learned in school and what I've been able to pick up later. It didn't really work out all that well. And I believe that's, yeah, like I said, the way the human mind works. If we can fuck it up, we're gonna fuck it up. If it is at all humanly possible, this is Murphy's Law, we all know it. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And what he describes, this secular religion, this religion without the supernatural, because, you know, the problem with religion is that it's been exploited by bad people who have used this sort of natural inclination of humanity to achieve bad things. That's exactly what would happen with a secular religion. If there was a religion, an organization, such as he describes, then some demagogue would come sweeping up, would take over, and would exploit it. Would exploit human weakness, human folly, to create some other shitty, exploitative movement. Just like it happened in Germany. And I think that that is an enormous weakness in this book, because basically he says that if we could create sort of the organization without the supernatural ideas, then it would all be great. You know, it would work out. It would mean we would get the good without the bad. And, you know, he basically doesn't problematize it. And I think that is just really bizarre, because he seems to be a very intelligent person. But it goes without saying that supernatural or non-supernatural, if humans are involved, we're gonna fuck it up. That's what we do. So I think that this book, it says here, the Sunday Telegraph described it as offering a glimpse of a more enlightened path. But it's never going to be more enlightened than the humans walking it. I.e., not very. So I really feel like it's a good book. It raises a lot of interesting points. And I really enjoyed reading it until I was sort of approaching the end and realizing that he was not at all going to address this glaring hole in his theory. I would love to hear from someone else who's read the book, and ideally who disagrees with me, so I could hear why you disagree. There's so much good in this book, but it was ruined for me by this glaring omission, basically of human nature, which is so strange, because human nature is what the book's all about, basically. So read it, if you haven't already. Definitely read it. It's well worth reading. Yeah, tell me what you think. For me, it was a letdown at the end. Alas.